The one really cool thing about beer is it brings people together. It's a social thing. And that's what I was actually having a conversation with our brewer the other day. He's like, that's the one thing we all have in common and like at Ithaca Beer is like we all work for beer. And beer is one of those things that brings people together, whether it's like, loosens you up a little bit to have that conversation, or it just it's a meeting place. That's how you see people. It's like, hey, you want to go get a coffee, or do you want to go get a drink?
Welcome to Well Said, Finger Lakes, the podcast where we speak with businesses, organizations, and interesting people from in and around the Finger Lakes region. My name is Jeremiah Craig. I'm the host for today, and we're coming at you from the live room at Well Said Media here in Ithaca, New York. And our guest today is Marketing Associate from Ithaca Beer. Please welcome Katharine Downey. Welcome, Katharine. Thanks for joining us on the podcast
Thanks
today.
for having me today.
Wondering if you could just start us out with telling us a little bit about yourself and how you became the marketing associate for Ithaca Beer.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been at Ithaca Beer for 4 months now. I'm a recent graduate from Ithaca College,
Congrats.
2023. Thank you. And Ithaca Beer has always been around. I think my freshman year was the first time I ever went there, so it's always been in the back of my mind. And I graduated as a integrated marketing communications major with a environmental studies minor. And I always knew that I wasn't quite done with Ithaca because of COVID and how it affected my senior year, freshman through senior year. So I just wanted to have more time in the Ithaca area. And I knew that I wanted to work for a brand that was creative, somewhere that I could work for a company that had the same values as me, something fun. I knew there was room for growth for me, and Ithaca Beer seemed like one of those places. So initially when I applied, it was the position of a marketing director and, laundry list of all these things of responsibilities. But I was like, I'm young, I have all these things to offer. So I was excited to apply and be a part of it. And then they accepted me as a marketing associate.
That's really cool. So I have a couple questions to follow up on that. One, you applied for the marketing director job. Like, you just didn't care. Like, the worst they can say is no, and I really like that sort of attitude. Did you hesitate at all when you saw that it was a marketing director position and you're like, I don't know if I could get that right off the bat?
I was a little bit nervous. I think it was just like everything that the description had, I was like, that's something I can do, and I'm willing to learn. Like, that was the big thing, is like I'm willing to learn and do those things. So I applied for it anyway. And then in meeting them, they were like, okay, like, let's give you some time. We'll teach you. There's room for growth. And I had mentioned, I was like, I'm not a beer drinker. And that was the other thing that I was like, this might come back to bite me. But it ended up being a good thing, because a lot of the market that we're looking at is people who, we want them to become craft beer drinkers, and we're trying to reach my generation to, start drinking craft beer and, not pick up the White Claw or the Coors Light or whatever it is. So in that way, I feel like I bring an edge to the team.
I like that, a little bit more of an objective perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And the other question that I had from your initial answer was that you felt like you weren't done with Ithaca because of COVID. Is that because you moved here and wanted to experience the town more, or why did you feel that way and want to stick around after you graduated?
So my sophomore year was the year that got affected by COVID. So the first semester we were at home, or no, my freshman year actually, second semester, we were sent home. So I wasn't even in Ithaca for that second semester. And then the start of my sophomore year, first semester, we weren't allowed on campus. So that was like a full year of time that I felt as though was taken away from me. And even though I had my classes and I made some friends, it was like it kind of stunted my whole experience in Ithaca. Mm-hmm. When I was at Ithaca College, too, I was a part of the women's track and field team for 4 years. So every single weekend we were traveling and working out every single day. And then on the weekends you're traveling for competition. So I never really got the opportunities to like go and explore Ithaca on the weekend and really see what the town is about, who the people are, and all these little restaurants in the area, or even like festivals, because it always lands on the weekend and we're gone. So that was a huge reason for me to stay around. So it just kind of, everything fell into place perfectly.
That's awesome. So now that you've spent a little bit more time here, I mean, only, I guess it's been hasn't been maybe a year since COVID is like, okay, we're done. What do you feel like makes Ithaca special?
That's a hard question. I think the people make Ithaca special because it's unlike any other place. I think there's a sort of everyone is marching to the beat of their own drum, and it's not an area where everyone's wearing the same thing or doing the same thing. You have so many different niche communities that are like have their own beat, I guess, to their drum. Like I recently started climbing at like Cayuga Climbs. I didn't know we had like a bouldering community here. We have such a great like outdoor space. Like there's a huge community in that sense. So anything that you really want to get into, it's like we have it here and your people are here. But I also enjoy the fact that it's very like people are very environmentally conscious, and people also enjoy like supporting local businesses. Like I feel like that's super important to me, and like another reason why Ithaca made sense to stay. I'm from Pennsylvania. Not that Pennsylvania doesn't have those things, but something about Ithaca just it makes it special here.
Yeah, it's kind of an oddity in that it's really small and tight knit and all those things that you said, but at the same time it kind of has like a rural feeling to it. Just everybody knows everybody at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's get into talking about some Ithaca beer stuff, because it's so big in this area. And I want to start out with this question that might be a good like jumping off point. What makes Ithaca beer unique from other local breweries?
The first thing that comes to mind is our location, because the fact that we're a little bit farther out of the city of Ithaca, we have that great lawn space that people just come for and sit in our red Adirondack chairs and get a beer and sit outside. I've heard a lot of people say, like, what are they even staring at in that field? Like, what's the point? And sometimes it's just like there'll be sunsets that are just amazing out there, or we'll have deer back there. It's just like kind of just peaceful environment. And our tap room, too, is just super industrial, but at the same time, it's like very cozy. So I think our space really gives us an edge over other breweries in the area that might be a little bit smaller. And our food there, everything is farm to table. So we have a garden out back that we pull in vegetables, and when we can use stuff from there, we do. And then most of our, I believe, if not up to 60% at times, is pulled from like local farmers and farmers. I'm not even thinking of the right word. Farmers, but people who come in and like bring us. I think all of our produce and meat and everything is like farm to table. So I think that brings us an edge. And the fact that like all of our beer is Ithaca beer, so people travel from all over. Like we get a lot of people from like New Jersey, Pennsylvania coming in to just visit Ithaca beer because they want to know the place that brewed Flower Power. So that's really huge for us too. So having a place that's just strictly, for our product, it's kind of a spot that people want to come and visit. It's like, oh, this is where the magic happens.
That's so true. And I've seen reviews and seen people talk about Flower Power, even overheard people in Ithaca be like, oh, that's the beer that I got in New York City. So it's like Flower Power is the Ithaca beer. It's like the famous, most popular one. What do you think it is about Flower Power that makes it so popular?
So it was the first West Coast IPA brewed on the East Coast, and we were the first to do it really, really well. So it's not as like an East Coast IPA is more hazy, so if you're looking at the glass, you can't really see through it. But with the West Coast IPA, you can see right through it. It's like beautiful golden color. So we were one of the first to do it really well. A lot of people joke around like Flower Power is one of those drinks you can have one and like you're feeling good too. So that's another thing that gives it an edge.
It definitely has that vibe. Even the name is perfect, not only for Ithaca, but for the feeling that you get after you drink just one glass or maybe two.
Yeah, absolutely. And it has it's a fruity flavor to it too, which is IPAs are normally like piney, so it's just kind of a twist on it as well.
Yeah, and I'm super happy that it's so popular and it's also local at the same time. It's really cool to see people get so excited about it.
Yeah.
But it's not just about Flower Power that people are getting so excited about the products and the drinks that you make. I noticed a lot of online reviewers of Ithaca beer say that they're not beer people, but they love the root beer. So I know this like personally because all of my nephews prefer Ithaca beer, root beer to, Mug or Barks. And if they end up having one of those root beers, they're definitely not as excited about it as if they were having Ithaca beer, root beer. So what is it about that, and how did you guys come up with that idea to release not only the root beer but also the ginger beer?
You know what, honestly, I don't even know what makes our root beer so special. It's just like it is. I think the fact that for all of our beers that we produce, it's always at a high quality. So the same with our root beer. It's just a high quality root beer. It just tastes delicious. And it's one of those things, it's like a special treat. So I think a lot of people associate it with it as like something almost like special to have. I believe Purity Ice Cream uses it in their root beer floats as well. So it's like one of those sweet treats. And then as far as like doing sodas in the first place, we were just like, how can we branch out? What else can we do? What are other breweries not doing? So we're like, soda's an avenue that's kind of untapped in that sense. And how do we reach that market of people that aren't beer drinkers? So soda was one of those perfect ways. And we also have cocktails in our brewery that we are able to now use our sodas for. But new sodas are rolling out as we keep having success. The root beer and the ginger beer were the first two, but now we have a pineapple ginger beer, we have a key lime cola, more stuff is in the works, which I can't mention now, but with the continued success and people I'm always going to Wegmans and see our little displays, they're just getting pulled off the shelves and totally emptied. So with the continued success of people enjoying the root beers and enjoying the ginger beer, more stuff will come.
That's so exciting. I'm glad to hear that you're expanding more in sodas too. It'll be fun to taste all those new flavors that you're going to be releasing. To get back to the beer and sort of the competitors in the space of alcohol, because the Finger Lakes region is full of wineries, cideries, and other breweries. Is it like a competitive space, or do you guys see it more of like a community where there's plenty of customers to go around?
I see it as a community. I think generally the Finger Lakes is one of those places that people are coming in from outside of Ithaca to visit, and they're going to hit up every brewery, every winery. People go on winery tours. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't people go bar hopping as well?
Yes.
So I definitely think there are enough customers to go around in that sense. And, as other breweries are releasing stuff, it's something to be celebrated as we bring more people into Ithaca in general. I think it's a great thing for everyone.
I love it. And it seems like when you have that sort of perspective and people aren't too competitive with each other, it's like that saying, high tide raises all boats. Like the Finger Lakes region just succeeds and gets better for it if everybody works together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of the high tide raises all boats, does Ithaca Beer ever partner with local businesses that maybe aren't in your industry? And if so, what has that experience been like?
We have been partnering with some local businesses. So recently, it was totally by chance. I was at the art market at the Ithaca Farmers Market, and I ran into Wendy Garrity, who owns Mix Gallery, art gallery downtown. So she's right on the Commons. And we were in need of some new art on our walls. And Wendy has a very small gallery. You'll know it if you've been in there. It has the black and white checkered floors. But she has a few artists that are underneath her that she manages and sells their art. And she does galleries every month and participates in the Ithaca Art Walk. But we partnered with her, and she's now bringing art into the brewery and curating everything and kind of looking at each space and saying what pieces work here, what spaces can we expand into, and then rotating for us. So that's a new partnership we just started with her. If you visit we have a rainbow room, so it's right after our main tap room area. It's a hallway almost into our back brewery area. It now has these, they're called the icons, but it's called our rainbow room. So we have these lights that are rainbow colors, and then these icon figures are almost like pop artish collages, and they just fit in that room so well. So Wendy has a really good eye for the spaces and then what art to add But that's been super successful, and we've got a lot of really good feedback on the art, to the point that people are getting up from eating and walking around to go look at all the art.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Is this at the brewery and the tap room that you have in College Town?
Just at our brewery location
Okay.
at the moment, not at College Town, but maybe something coming soon. I'll have to talk to her. And then as far as our other partnerships, we are also partnered with Southern Tier Balloons.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
the hot air balloon company in the area, you've probably seen them flying around on your commute. But they have, we opened up our lawn area as a launch site for them. So they're now taking off when they can, weather permitting and wind permitting, from our tap room location. So we try and give everyone a heads up of when they're going to be there. But that's been a really great partnership for us, of just people love seeing the hot air balloon take off because it's one of those things that not many people get to see. So having it be at Ithaca Beer is really cool. And then on top of that, when Dar lands the flight, they have a celebratory toast at the end. And not everyone wants to have champagne, so we have we have offered him some beer and sodas for the non-alcoholic option and the alcoholic option. But it's been a hit from what he's told me.
That's so much fun. And it is really interesting to see those hot air balloons go up. So it sounds like it's a cool event just to attend. How can somebody, figure out or find out when these things are happening?
So the best way to find out is probably on our Instagram account or on Facebook. So our account is at Ithaca Beer, or you can visit our taproom account, which is at Ithaca Beer Taproom. So normally we'll try and give an update. As soon as I get the word from Dar that we're good, I'll try and get on our story and post like, hey, hot air balloon tonight at like 4 p.m. And usually it takes about an hour for them to start getting set up. So people will see the trailer come in, and then they bring out the basket. It's like, oh, something's happening back here right now.
So it sounds like it's a quick thing that happens, and people need to be following Ithaca Beer on Instagram or Facebook, and also probably have your notifications set on for every time they post so that you know when it's going down.
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of exclusive offers and updates, events, and that's the best way to find out.
So definitely the notifications for sure. It's a great way to support local businesses and artists is to set those notifications when they post. Let's talk about seasonal beers, because it seems like you have something new every quarter or something like that. You guys are releasing new beers all the time. So what are some of the most popular, not just for this time of year, but for every time of year?
I would say, our best seller and what's in 15 states is Flower Power. So that's always our...
Is that seasonal though?
Not seasonal.
Oh, okay.
That's just all the time. But for seasonal beers, Chai Pumpkin is super, super popular. Same with our Country Pumpkin. We have Cousin Eddie coming out very soon. We also have Fugly Sweater releasing very soon. Those both come out in November. A little bit jumping the gun, but everyone, it starts to get into the season. And then as far as summer, it's mostly our soda releases, which this past summer was our Pineapple Ginger Beer and our Key Lime Cola. So hopefully next summer we'll have a few new ones that you haven't seen before.
Fun. And I saw this summer that you also released a summer pumpkin beer. How did that go? Because it seemed like kind of opposite than what you would expect.
Yeah, so that was our Country Pumpkin, and I was kind of given this this task of like, how are we? You have to post promotional content like early, because that's what every other company is doing at that time. So if you look at, I think I was looking at like Coors Light or Miller Lite, or it might have been Samuel Adams. And their pumpkin beer is released in August. So we kind of have to keep up to date with like these bigger guys, because we're also getting into stores at the same time. So because Samuel Adams is on the shelves in Wegmans in August, we also have to follow in suit. And if you look at their social media accounts, and it's my first job, first year doing this, I'm kind of looking at the bigger guys of like, what can we do to keep up? I was like, we got to put a twist on it, because you can't just say like, hey, pumpkin beer, like it's it's 80 degrees outside, but it's gonna sound good, like spices and everything that you would have in a latte. So I rounded up some, if you've seen the post, it did very well, but I got some friends together and I was like, why don't we do a photo shoot at one of the waterfalls? And they were in bathing suits, which everyone was like, oh my God, this is so scandalous. But I was like, it's kind of cheeky. Ithaca Beer's always been a little cheeky. And they were posed up with our country pumpkin beer. And it got a lot of comments and people saying it's too early, you can't be doing this. What are these girls doing with pumpkin beers? But all PR is good PR in my eyes. I was like, if you want to interact with it, that's great. But in that regard, I kind of, after that first post went up, I almost got, I got excited and I was like, let's keep doing it. Like, let's keep pushing the pumpkin in August. And people, I mean, I think people like to poke at a brand and comment and, you know, mess around a little bit. And, you know, for everyone interacting, it's like I have so much fun, like giving that brand voice and writing back and communicating with them.
Yeah, that's always fun to get people on controversial comments because then when you do that, of course, the algorithm is going to push it to more people who then will, you know, comment more controversial stuff.
Right.
Have you thought about more things that you could do like that in order to get more attention, or is it a tough thing to figure out just because it is a local brand and you have brand standards? You can't get too controversial, right?
Right, absolutely. I think, at least for me, I've been trying to think, like, how can we showcase Ithaca? Because we are Ithaca Beer. Like, what can we use in the area, whether that's our partnerships with Mix or Southern Tier Balloons, or just, like, the area to promote our beer. And especially the people. A lot of faces you'll see are, like, friends helping out, or even, like, some of our taproom staff. So they're always willing to, like, help out with a photo shoot or, you know, do a video really quick. So that's, I think, in that regard, that's how we're going to keep it not controversial. It's like, oh, but they're at Teganic. But yeah, I've been thinking forward into the future of like, what are we going to do for Fugly Sweater? What's going to be that you know, marketing message that we're trying to promote? How are we going to make it a little fun? How are people going to interact? So the gears are turning. I'm open to opinions and suggestions. So if you have any ideas.
Yeah, it sounds like a fun one where you could do a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
Especially through content online. And speaking of that, what are some of your strategies online to increase the interest in Ithaca Beer? I know you've just started 4 months in, but you know you have a fresh perspective that probably is really good for Ithaca Beer at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think coming from college, my experience was with social media marketing. So I was running the Bombers ICTF account. Shout out to my women Bombs from the track team. But I was working for them. But at the time, it wasn't really about, you know, reaching a certain amount of people who are like working with the algorithm. It's kind of like, how do you convey this information and get it out in a timely manner? But the one thing that I learned from that, which was huge, is consistency. Because when you have consistency in your posts and how often you're posting, you can reach that audience and they're going to stay engaged. So for Ithaca Beer and like looking at our social media, when I came in, I was like, we need to get on a more consistent schedule. So as far as like a new release, making sure like, okay, if we have a new beer, what's going to be the first post, you know, what's going to be the second? Can we, you know, content is king. Let's throw in a video. Like, let's think of content ideas for a video. So that's been huge for us. I think that's the main thing. And then on top of that, hashtags have been big, tagging people. We love when people will tag us on their photos, especially on Untapped. I've gone through there. We have a lot of followers on Untapped, and they're always, when you rate a beer, you can take a picture of your beer. So a lot of people have these beautiful photos of like them up on a mountaintop drinking, you know, country pumpkin or a flower power, whatever it is. So I love pulling people's photos that they take, and they're so excited to see it posted on that main account. So in that way, it boosts engagement as well. So trying to utilize, you know, the people that love Ithaca Beer, and then, you know, throw in some fun ideas here and there as well.
Right, because it's a community thing. You want there to be a community around your brand.
And beer in general, I think, not being a beer drinker coming in, the one really cool thing about beer is it brings people together. It's a social thing. And that's what I was actually having a conversation with our brewer the other day. He's like, that's the one thing we all have in common, and like at Ithaca Beer is like we all work for beer, and beer is one of those things that brings people together, whether it's like, you know, loosens you up a little bit to have that conversation, or it just it's a meeting place. That's how you see people. It's like, hey, you want to go get a coffee, or do you want to go get a drink? So in that sense, I try and think of it as a bigger thing too, of like, that's a neat thing about beer as well.
Yes, 100%. And I love that you mentioned earlier on in that answer how consistency is key to getting people interested in the brand. The one thing that I've found in my own personal content creation that is a drawback to consistency is sometimes the quality isn't always like as good as it can possibly be. So have you come across that? And what is the balance between being as consistent as possible and also as high quality as possible in content?
It's been trying to figure out what the concept is going to be. So we just released a beer, Therminator, for Thurman Thomas from the Bills team back in the 80s and 90s. He was super big. But we just released a beer for him, and I was like, okay, what kind of post do we want to do for him? And I'm like, obviously we need one of just showcasing the art on the can. His wife was the one who actually designed it, so her handle is called The Ghost. So it's really important that we're showing this art on it too. It's just something different that Ithaca Beer hasn't done, and then important to show him because he's really the face of the beer. So like that was the first post. I was like, okay, that's what we're gonna do for this. And then moving on, I was like, I think what you want is either going the route of like football or like having people enjoying the beer and like being together. Because like if you're going to have that beer, you're going to be together watching a Bills game or something. Mm-hmm. So generally when it comes to like content creation like that, I try and do it all around the same time. So with that photo shoot, I got a few friends together and I said, hey, what if you guys do cheersing? Just getting different poses, different looks for the can in different areas. And then when using all that content, it looks consistent when you have it all laid out, but you have enough that it's like, okay, I have like 4 days of post here, and I can go back and kind of figure out what works, what doesn't, which sometimes it is hard because I've had moments where I'm like, oh, I think this is all going to work out. It's going to look good. You take all the photos and you think you have it scheduled out, and then you look at them and you're like, oh, this is not what I wanted at all.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, I'm like, I'll try and get it done in one sweep so then it can be high quality. It will all look similar. But sometimes, yeah, I do have to break it up. But that's been like also time management and scheduling it and giving myself the time and reaching out to, get help when I do need it I can't hold the can every time. So getting other people to hold the can and cheers and, enjoy it.
Yeah. And I love that fact that you're banking content. Like, I think that's something that a lot of people and a lot of local businesses can take from what you just said is, you're inviting people over, having a photo shoot or a video shoot. Are you just using your phone, a camera?
Camera, generally.
Okay, so yeah, and you're banking that content for several posts, even though it's shot within 2-3 hours, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really valuable for a lot of people to know because, they think that they have to spend, an hour every day taking photo, making content. But you're saying that if you just do it one day, 2-3 hours, then you have a week's worth, maybe 2 weeks worth of content.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was something that I learned with working with the women's track and field team. We would have a meet and a photographer would come in and just take tons of pictures. And then working as a social media manager, they would hand me that giant folder and I was like, okay, I'll take, I'll maybe use like 2 photos from that entire meet. And it might be 1,000 photos, but then it's like, okay, I have a bank of 1,000 photos that if I have to go back to, they're there. And I think that was something that I learned. It's like, it's so important to have that bank to break into when you do need it, because it will come up like, oh, I need this person's face, in the same way that I'm like, oh, I really need a picture of like the pineapple ginger beer. But if I've used all these other photos that I've taken by chance, it's like I have nothing to dig back into. So that's been huge of like trying to build out more content, and especially because Ithaca is going to get snowy soon, I've been trying to take advantage of the fact that it's still beautiful outside and that we can use our outdoor area to take photos, because eventually like it's going to be all dead. The snow is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it's not, it's not the same of like, oh, I'm going to bring out a hot pizza and take a picture of it. It's like, it's snowing outside. It just won't work.
Yeah.
So building that up now.
a whole library that you can just pull from whenever you want based off of the seasons. Because right now, I mean, you have the leaves changing, so that's going to be useful for, maybe next October or whenever, if you don't happen to use it this year. I really like the fact that you brought up the banking content, because I feel like that's something that a lot of people can take value from. But with some of the other types of content, a lot of it has to do with trends, especially on TikTok and Instagram. Have you thought about jumping on any trends? And if so, how does that work out for Ithaca Beer?
Always looking at trends. I mean, in my own time that I'm scrolling on my phone, in the back of my head, like as a marketing person, I'm just like always thinking like, how can we connect this back to Ithaca Beer? What is it going to be? So like I'll save stuff on my own phone when I'm just for leisure, scrolling for myself, and then I'll send it to the Ithaca Beer account. So I'm like, okay, maybe we could figure out something to use for this later. So constantly doing that, but I think on top of it, like it's really, TikTok is popping right now. So it's like, if you're going to be posting content, you really need to be, sometimes it doesn't feel like working, but you really do need to be scrolling and saying what sounds are popular right now, what trends are going on. But there's always a connection. I feel like you can always do something creative. There was one trend going around with baristas where it's like, have a good day, and then they say you too, and it's like, oh, me too, and then they like go and make a coffee together. So I was like, what if we had someone who said like, oh, I hope you have a good day too? And it's hard to explain a trend if it's like you can't see the video, but I was like, maybe we could do that with one of our bartenders and have it be like maybe I could play the customer or something like that. So constantly thinking about things like that, and even the day-to-day stuff. Sometimes that you can fit in with a sound that's very popular right now. So we had for Ithaca Murals came in with one of their artists, Vanessa. I'm forgetting her last name right now, but she does a lot of chalkboard art for College Town Bagels, and she came in and did chalkboard art for us. And I was like, this is really cool. Like, let's just take a time lapse of her doing the chalkboard, and we'll put it with a really popular sound going on right now, post it on TikTok, and it did really well. So it doesn't always have to be like, oh, I'm going to set up and make it a whole production. Sometimes it could just be like, this is what's happening right now in my world, and like, let's try and connect it.
I love that. So it's really cool that you're coming at it from both angles, the banking of the content and reacting to trends that are happening right now that only last like a week or two. That's really smart, and I think a lot of people can take a lot of value from your strategy and maybe implement it into their own strategies. Let's go from online to in-person, because you also host a lot of events like live music and trivia at the College Town place, and those can obviously help bring people into the brewery. But have there been any like other surprises when hosting these events that you'd never expect to happen to make them even more worthwhile?
I think there's always like, how can we connect it more? Where's the next connection of like, for example, like trivia up at College Town, it's a totally different demographic than what we're getting down at our brewery location. So that was a bit of a challenge. Like, okay, we're trying to reach college students. That's predominantly the audience that are coming in. So they're coming in for trivia, but then how can we engage with them on social media? How can we have them buy more drinks when they're there? So something that we implemented, and when we're promoting it on social media, is we have a raffle going on. So it's $500, so 5 $100 gift cards, and every drink that you buy, you get a drink ticket, and you get to write your name and your phone number on it, and you drop it right in. And then at the end of the trivia season, so on, believe it's the 28th, we're going to be pulling 5 winners. So most of them are students, and like $100 gift card sounds pretty good, right?
No doubt.
But yeah, I mean, even stuff like that, trying to get people like, okay, we already have them in the door, but how do we have them interact more? And then on top of that, we're like trying to also promote our social media for that taproom account, saying like, hey, if you follow us, like you're going to have like insider information for, giveaways going on, raffles, like the $500 raffle, and then also just events like trivia, or we have late night DJs going on. So that's been huge of like, how do we get them to come back, or what's that going to be?
And that's the whole idea to integrated marketing. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
right?
what you went to school for.
Yeah.
So you could just see it play out right there, and we
Yeah.
just came full circle.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. That is so cool. That kind of does it for my questions. Was there anything that I didn't ask that you felt is worthwhile to tell everybody watching or listening today?
I would say like never count out your recent graduates. I know that I'm really happy that like Dan took a chance on me, but I knew that I'm capable of doing a lot of great things, and we have so much like talent in this area between Cornell and Ithaca, and it's something that local businesses can really take advantage of in a way. It's like there are students out there, a lot of photography students that that's something they can add in their portfolio, if you need product photos or even videography. Like there's so many, the creative media team at Ithaca College, like they make sports videos, but their editing skills are amazing. Like they can also help out with stuff like that and something they can put in their portfolio too if it's something they're showcasing. So I would say definitely like tap into the talent that's around here. Like don't count students out because we're a force to be reckoned with.
100%, and we know it here so well because Well Said Media was started by Ithaca College grads way back in the day. So it's so true. And Katharine, thank you so much for spending the time today. I really appreciate you coming in to the studio, and I feel like that was a great interview. Where can people learn more about Ithaca Beer?
So the best place to reach us is probably Instagram or Facebook. That's where most of our communication is going out. We're also on Twitter and Untapped, but it's all Ithaca Beer. We're at Ithaca Beer Tap Room.
Great. Definitely follow them. And if you want to learn more about our video services here at Well Said Media, you can learn more at wellsaidmedia.com. Thanks for watching and listening today.